the second Panorama Event Night during this IMPAKT festival. We call it Let's Get Physical this evening. I don't know if we're gonna get physical, but we can try at least. Thank you IMPAKT DJ team for the lovely chip tunes as an introduction. And we're gonna kick off with an analysis of Norwegian youth culture. So I'd like to invite the first guest, Emil Trier and Tormi. I think you have to explain what all these videos that you made are about.
Well, I'll try. We're glad to be here. We're from Norway, and my name is Emil, and this is Torgny. Torgny is an artist, and I'm a film director, and together we made something of a hybrid between short films and music videos that we're going to show you tonight. They're all about different youth culture phenomena in Norway. And the first one is called The Only Game. And we, how should we explain it? It's, take it away.
Well, as an artist, I wanted to do something different than the traditional performance video. I come from a rock and roll background, and I've done some performance videos before, you know, with a band, you know, addressing the camera. And I had the honor to see a documentary film of Emil with a scene of some rural kids, you know, hanging out in their cars. So the first video is from a small town in Norway with kids who have this obsession with vintage Volvo cars. That's the first video, and then?
And the second video is called Big Day, and it's basically we're following over a couple of days the graduation of some kind of upper class girls. We have in Norway, we have something called Rus, which is like a graduation celebration. So Big Day, video number 2 is following this phenomena. And video number 3 is from like the north of Norway, where we're following indigenous Norwegians, actually, the Sami people in Kautokeino, which is almost at the border to Russia. And that's where they drive their, what do you call it, like snow scooters, yeah, exactly. So this is the 3 videos, and yeah, that's a short summary, I guess.
Let's just start with the first video. The other 2 will be there during this whole evening, so not after each other. But, share some questions with the audience. We can also have an applause for it. So, was it difficult directing them?
Well, the approach here is actually basically to try to. I think that it's more kind of a visual approach than it is to interact too much. I try to stylize it with. We're doing a lot of tracks and we do a lot of slow motion and we do. And the structure of the film is basically just following them through like a Saturday, where they are bored and do their average stuff. It's, of course, some of the direction is basically when we're inside the small airport, for example, that is directed, so you can see it's kind of when he opens the gate there, it's 4 different shots, for example. So that means we have one camera, so we do a lot of takes in different angles and so on, and it's basically also trying to get some kind of trust between us. I mean, we're there to film them and we're following them a whole day, and it's important for us that they're comfortable with us being there.
Because you're from Oslo, you told us, and where is it in Norway?
This is in the middle of Norway, and it's in Oslo. This is looked at as a little bit of a strange place in a way. It's
kind of inland.
Yeah, inland. It's like a small town Norway. Yeah.
Interesting stuff, and we're going to see more of it. Perhaps you have some questions in the audience.
I'm reading a question. The cool thing is it's really familiar because I'm also from a very small village in Holland. We had the same guys.
That's interesting.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Actually, we talked about this yesterday. That it seems as if there are some universal things, or at least really Dutch things in the documentaries here.
We drive Volkswagen.
Cool.
This phenomenon is called råner in Norwegian. Is it like a phrase in Holland that you use for like kids with rural kids with an obsession with the cars? Do you have like a name for it?
I just.
Yeah, new kids, but new kids.
Yeah, we should actually hook you up with the video, but afterwards. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So let me see what's next. Sticking with the rural areas, we got Eindhoven in the house. Our next guest is Masoud Hassani, who made a mine cafe, something completely different. While he searches for the presentation, perhaps a short introduction. You were born in Afghanistan, and now perhaps you can already start your presentation, because it's probably part of that.
We'll start in a minute. Where is it playing? Oh yeah, I'm originally from Afghanistan. I was born in Kabul. That's the capital of Afghanistan right now. And I used to make this kind of rolling objects where we lived. And there was a big desert at the north of Kabul. And I will show you about these models at the end of the presentation. So I will begin first to what is it about. When we made these models, it was on a big desert, and that was the training field for soldiers, and they came there to train and with a lot of explosives. So when they went back, they left behind a lot of explosives actually, and that became our playing garden. So these are the landmines that I've been grew up with. The block one that's for tanks, and there's a one that calls it a butterfly. So they throw it from an airplane, so it kind of turn around and land on grass. That's why it's also green, so you never know where they land actually. So if somebody step on it, it's gonna explode. And the other one, that is the anti-personnel landmine. That's really explosive as well. It's almost this big. And there's about 50 grams of explosives in it. So that's just enough for one leg. So that's the result. Those anti-personnel landmines are all over the places in a lot of countries, mostly in deserts. And they're right now in Angola, in Afghanistan, about 70 countries actually. Worldwide there are right now 270 million of these explosives. These statistics are from the NAFO. So right now Angola is at the top. So there is now 20 million landmines in the country, and there live only 12 million people. So there's almost, for everybody, there's 2 landmines. This is the map of Afghanistan. The red area is the explosive area. That's actually the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And in the red area there's about 10 million landmines. And the gray part and the white part is not really researched. These are the tools that they search for anti-personnel mines. They use even rats and dogs. Rat is a new animal. They are very, very smart and they're light, so they can't step on the landmine, so they will not explode. But it's very, very expensive to train them. It takes about 1 year, and then they need somebody to walk with them and so on. These are the models that we saw in the beginning. They're all blown by the wind actually. So they were kind of toys when we were young. And I translate one of those models. And so this is now a sketch. And next this is the real one. It's about 2 meter 40 high and diameter. So it's about 90 kilograms, and the 90 kilograms, that's because of the weight, because you need, for landmines, you need a lot of force. So this is also wind powered, so when it rolls around on a desert, so it steps on a landmine, it's going to explode. But not the whole ball, because it's quite huge. So with every explosion, it will lose only 3 legs actually. It has in total 220 legs. And it's very cheap as well, it's about 40 euro. It's an expression how it should work. And this is the test that we done with the Dutch defense. This was at the Rake. It's a military base where they train soldiers how to take anti-personnel landmines from the ground. And that test went quite well. I will show you a movie at the end of this presentation. This was also one of them. The white ball is meant for tripwire. So if you walk on the wire, it's going to trip. So there will be an explosion, but not exactly where you are. The explosion will be somewhere else. So in this case, there's an explosion. But so the landmine is going to jump in the air about this height, and then it's going to spread itself. And one explosion can cause many other explosions as well, so it's kind of domino effect. And these are the other tests. So if the ball hits a mine, it's going to roll over it, and lose only in parts. I have now, in total, I've got 3 of them, and they are kind of working, but I've made them with my own imagination, so with no real materials. But from now on, I'm working with Dutch defense, and they are kind of helping me out how to build it in reality. Yeah, this is the feet from the first model. Those ribs are for the movement. So every foot walks as a human foot. So it's kind of press the ground as good as possible. So it kind of adjusts itself also on the ground. So if there's a rots on the ground or something else, it's going to adjust itself. That was the first one, and this is the second one. And this one works quite alright. And yeah, and the pressure is enough to detonate a landmine right now. This was also with the test. The ball, because it's wind power, so you don't know where they are actually. So they're kind of moving around random. And that's why I integrate in every bar a GPS chip. So with the GPS chip you see exactly where they are. And when they are moving around, you will see on the website, so this is the example, you will see them moving actually. So on the website you can find all kind of other information about the countries, about danger zones and so on. So this is an area for example. So if the balls are running around, it will let a pad behind, a digital pad actually. So with a smartphone or a GPS receiver, you could walk in the same pad actually where the ball was. And that's an area with a lot of balls. And then finally, it gives you kind of estimation, indication I mean, to see how safe is this area. And that's really useful for the people who live there, because sometimes they don't dare to go to the desert or to their neighborhood because they're really afraid. And sometimes there are only 1 or 2 mines, but there are also places that they're actually full, but they don't know, and then they step on it, and then they will lose a leg. This is it's now industrial. So worldwide there are about 270 million mines. To detonate one landmine, it's about $1,000, and that's what they do every day right now. And it costs like 270 million if you want to detonate every landmine in the world. So that's a lot of amount. In Afghanistan, it's about 10 million. With the same techniques, it will be about 10 million. The ball that I've made is about €40. It can detonate more than 10 mines. So it will be about 400,000 to clear every landmine in Afghanistan. So you will make a profit about 9 million. That's the final result of the Minetathon. So with the organizations that I'm trying to work with is Defense and UNICEF and Landmine Action. I'm actually in contact with all of them. And recently we did tests with with Defense and UNICEF and Landmine Action. They want to put them in locations in different countries. And oh yeah, this is part 1. I will show you. Now I will show you a movie. It's actually same images, but it will be in the movie. Is there sound?
Should be.
Same pattern.
share some questions.
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience?
Well, you're letting these balls loose in Afghanistan. Maybe is there a message in it? Because if you're not walking with them, and people might not know what it is, and it might end up in a museum, or kids like you were younger, you were playing, they might just take it away.
Yeah, you mean that they want to play with it?
Yeah,
yeah,
or,
sure.
Like say like this is what it does.
Yeah.
Or educate people.
Yeah, of course. This is actually for the people to understand that they are actually minds. So
it
if
looks beautiful as well. So I would like to have it in my house.
But then the room is filled.
Yeah, exactly. It would be dangerous. Yeah, but this is But actually, these balls are meant for dishes where no kids or these are not really for villagers because it's really big as well, So if you put it between people, so it can hurt people as well. If it blow very very fast, but it's actually too heavy to run really fast as well. So it's kind of moving slowly. But if it's also a kind of sign in the desert that if these things are around, it means that there's something wrong with the desert.
I mean that there are mines over there.
Yeah, so it kind of shows you that it's an explosive desert as well. So it can be a symbol as well.
Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, it's really nice that you invented this. I was wondering if maybe at one point you're also able to clear areas where you know that the ball has been everywhere and you can really say, okay, now this is a safe area. I don't know if you think that is possible at some point?
With this ball, it's not a mine clearance, it's more a mine reduction project. So first our militaries, if they clear up a landmine, first they kind of move everything what's possible, and then they clear every centimeter, But this is for the beginning. And then I have also another toys actually. They are also blown by the wind, but they run really straight and they come back as well. So they kind of absorb the energy of wind. So first they absorbing the energy, so they're going forward, and then they're using the same energy to come back. And that's the second step. So first this ball gives you kind of indication. So where are the explosives actually? And so it's in the same time, it's also detonating landmines. So it's kind of clearing as well. But it's not really 100%. So it's about 30 or 40 maximum. And then the military, then they know where they have to be. Because sometimes they kind of start somewhere and they're digging for months, but that's the wrong place. So it makes it easier for them as well.
Maybe you should leave something on the floor where it has been that you also see on the ground.
Yeah, you mean a physical marking?
Yeah.
It's possible, but then if there's wind or rain, it will be disappear as well. So that's why the GPS. With the GPS, you could you can see where it was and so on. But that's more technical.
Other questions?
How did you make your way into the world of the military complex?
It began. It's quite complex. Yeah. A teacher of mine, she was really friend with Minister Gert Leers, so that was our first meeting. And then I got in touch with the defense, but then first they didn't want to cooperate because it was a school project. But then I ended up at the provincie house. I don't know how you call it in English, but there that was in Brabant. So I met the commissioner of the Queen, and then he introduced me to the general. And he introduced me to the Oorschot, and Oorschot sent me to Rake, and we did tests. And there are more tests in December. So with real explosive this time. It's with the EUD this time. So, and in February probably we have a real product which can be used. So it's almost there. But I'm looking for sponsors as well.
There should be it should be possible to make money with this. I mean, you're looking for sponsors,
Yes,
but
yeah,
it
but
sounds like
yeah, some people want to put it in their garden, but it's not really sponsorship.
No, but I mean, I'm directly thinking of the if it costs so much money to sort of sweep the areas.
Yeah, that's.
It should be possible to use this.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I have to look for some interested people. I don't know. But first, we will try to work with the Dutch government, and because it's not really military product as well, because it's not 100% military or I mean defense. They use only products which is really reliable.
So it's more of a civic empowerment for the people that live there.
Yeah, it's more for organizations like UNICEF or Land in Action. There are a lot of, but they're not really from the government. They're just.
I saw one last question over there.
In one way or another, it seems to me at the beginning of your presentation you showed us little paper objects rolling in the wind. Did you make them just for fun, or just right from the start with purpose for?
Yeah, I used to make these paper models when we were kids actually. I played with my brother and a lot of other friends on deserts in Afghanistan. So that was our toys actually. So we kind of made our own toys, and that was only one type of toy. So we made also cars and streets and everything. And we played also with a lot of explosives, so kind of, yeah, I know how to, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, at the time, if you're a kid, you don't, you have no fear. So, and then when I began to graduate, so the project was more to make your childhood toys. So I started to make these paper models. But at that time, I didn't know what can I do with these models. And then, because at school you kind of learn how to translate ideas to products, that makes it easier to kind of put you in a position and say, okay, I will make it bigger and more workable and more. And that was the beginning. I made a first model. That one was just a aesthetic model. Didn't work at all, but there was an idea. And now I spent a couple of months into researching and stuff. Now it's kind of working.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, our next guest is Nazima Kadir. She's a cultural anthropologist, and we'll have a preview of the project that she will premiere tomorrow at Casco, and it's the film Our Autonomous Life, where she made a fictional story about the squatter community, if that's correct. Sort of correct. But she will tell you everything about it. You want to play it first? Yeah. Okay, let's play it first.
the trailer for the sitcom. So, should I speak up? Yes. Okay. Anyway, my name is Nazima Kadir. I'm a cultural anthropologist. I am not an artist, so that's going to distinguish me tonight. And this is the trailer for a cooperative sitcom produced by Casco, which will premiere tomorrow evening at Casco, and it will be broadcast on RTV Utrecht over the next few months. So what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes is I'm going to talk about the history and the process of the production, and I'm going to talk about what it's been like to translate an academic text to an artistic piece and a cooperative sitcom. So just to briefly introduce myself, I conducted ethnographic research in a squatters community in Amsterdam, and I lived and I worked as a squatter in this community for 3.5 years. And this period, this field work, was the basis for my PhD dissertation, which is about paradoxes of hierarchy and authority in a Dutch squatters movement. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Because I tend to speak a little too fast. And the name of the dissertation is called The Autonomous Life, with a question mark. And it's specifically about how people in the movement both disavow and silently maintain hierarchy and authority. And it's a systematic examination of the contradiction between what people say and what they practice in a highly ideological radical left community. And so the first chapter is about how hierarchy is established through specific squatter skills and performances of hostility, which I call squatter capital. The second is about the characteristics of authority figures and their habitus, and how authority figures are recognized through gossip around their sexuality. The third is about dynamics of hierarchy and authority within squatted houses. And the last chapter is about activists and about movement biographies. And so the whole process of taking a book, a dissertation, and then translating it into a theatrical piece took months of conceptualization in meetings between myself, Maiko Tanaka, the curator of the Grand Domestic Revolution series at Casco, Bina Chua, the director of Casco, and Maria Pask, who is the guest director of the sitcom. And Maria's work is very important because as an artist, she has focused on radical left communities, and she herself lived as a squatter in London, so she really understood a lot of the dynamics that I wrote about in my dissertation. And after months of meeting, we decided to make it into a sitcom because we wanted to play with the whole genre of sitcom, but we also wanted to create distance from the ethnographic material because the sitcom as a form has a number of tropes and formulas, and so we thought it would be fun to kind of play with the sitcom formula itself. And in order to get that going, I first produced a text in which I wrote up a number of situations that involve some type of conflict within a squatters group. And then Maria outlined a larger conceptual piece, as well as like an active creative methodology regarding community theater. And the script was written communally through a series of script workshops with the whole team, including the actors. And one of the actors called the process making a communist television production. So in terms of trying to like show, I want to use a specific example of how we translated like academic concepts into a tongue-in-cheek sitcom formula. So in the first chapter of my dissertation, I introduced a concept called squatter capital. Now this concept borrows from Pierre Bourdieu's theories of capital, in which he explains that class is not merely about the amount of money that you have, but about how you exhibit your taste and your habitus. And what Bourdieu says is that there are 3 forms of capital: economic, how much money you make, or how much money you have; social, who you know; and cultural, your habitus. And there is a tight relationship between the 3. But cultural capital, your habitus, your taste, your style, this is all learned over a lifetime, and it's the most difficult to demonstrate convincingly. So, for example, an artist who has no money at all, but comes from an upper middle class background, has more cultural capital in terms of arts, style, and knowledge than a plumber who may factually have more money, but less style. And so Bourdieu continues, so this is kind of his larger kind of outline in terms of kind of understanding mainstream forms of classification. And then he continues to explore how capital works, and he looks at alternative communities that reject mainstream norms. And what he says that in such communities, people appear to superficially reject mainstream capital, but they actually create a new set of norms that then refract those mainstream ones. So there's always a relationship between the kind of values in a subcultural community and larger mainstream values. And therefore, in order to convincingly inhabit a subcultural persona, you're supposed to show a process of mastery and rejection. You should understand values, mainstream values. You should master them, and then you should reject them in order to conform and to reify alternative values. So I took all of this, and then I came up with the idea of squatter capital. And I say that squatter capital explains a set of values that are particular to the squatters movement. And it is a set of skills and types of performances that establish authenticity and values for a squatter. And these are very, very practical. It's squatting a house, it's breaking down a door, being able to build and construct, having organizational skills, being able to organize events, actions, having attention to detail, being able to strategically manipulate in politics, being able to do legal work, administrative delay, being able to campaign, do publicity, lobby, and manage the press, and also non-instrumental acts of bravery, which are being able to demonstrate conviction in potentially violent situation. Plus, I also say that you have to also exhibit a performance of hostility, and that hostility changes according to your audience. So what I've just described to you is extremely academic. So how then do you take something that's extremely dense, hopefully not, but can be a little bit boring, and then make it into some kind of sitcom, which is supposed to be funny and interesting, and also kind of both play with and conform with a number of tropes. And so what we did was, in the sitcom, in the first episode, which is going to premiere tomorrow, there's a young woman who wants to enter a squatted house. She wants to live in a house, and she's interviewed by her squatter housemates, but they don't actually know if they want to let her in and let her live in the house. They don't know if they actually quite trust her, and if they trust her ideologically. So what she does is she goes through an obstacle course in order to demonstrate that she has all of the squatter skills. And so you have and this obstacle course in itself refers to a lot of sitcoms that tend to have obstacle courses. And so she actually there's a whole sequence that lasts about 2 minutes in which she breaks open a door, she fixes a lock, she campaigns to fight the eviction of her squat by making a squatter sign and writing a press release. She bakes a cake in order to be a good housemate. She does domestic work. She does the dishes, and you see a sign that says "Eerste afwas, dan de revolutie." She puts on this all black outfit. She puts on a balaclava, which is this black face mask, and she throws a Molotov cocktail. And then she ends the first episode by being extremely rude to the postman, which is kind of the translation of this performance of hostility. I can't actually show you the sitcom because it's going to premiere tomorrow, but I thought that this would be interesting for you to know. Yeah, that's it.
So actually, this whole squatter capital.
Yes.
It sounds exactly the same as all these frat houses you have here in Utrecht. And how you can get in the mooie lullenhuizen and.
Well, I mean, listen, I know nothing about frat houses, but I doubt that. I mean, I don't think breaking open a door and a way to go campaign against speculation.
This whole idea of how to establish this in the way of Bourdieu, if I understand it right.
Yeah.
If I see building squatter capital makes you eventually perhaps live in the better houses also within the squatter community. I can imagine that in Frankrijk that there are people living that are really like the heads of the squatter movement in Amsterdam, and that in other places other people do it, that there's a sort of similar hierarchy, or am I seeing that incorrectly?
Well, I mean, I think that you're right. Like a house like the Frankrijk, for example, you have to have been what is seen as a good activist, and being a good activist means that all of the kind of skills that I talked about will help you be a good activist. It means that you're very, very involved, that you continue, that you show conviction, and that it's sincere. So, and whether or not, and yeah, you're right. Like having an affordable, beautiful house in Amsterdam is quite nice. But I mean, I feel very uncomfortable saying that it's like a frat house, because I think that that's, yeah, I don't.
Okay,
I
won't let you say that.
I won't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
The way of getting there and gaining capital
Yeah,
sort of looks like a similar system, but then in a completely different context.
But just so you're aware that when I make, this is my classification, and this is me talking about things that are not explicit and that people understand, and making it very explicit. And it's not this explicit, like no one will ever come, if you squat a house, no one will say to you, well, you're a bad squatter because you didn't do this, this, and this. Actually, some people might actually say that to you, but that's, but it's not so, it's not like A, B, C, and D. Like it's not like going to a university where you have to pass a few courses and then you get to like the second level. But these are kind of more subtle ways of evaluating people. And so, because I'm an anthropologist, I make very subtle issues extremely blunt, which then becomes a cause of debate. But so that's why I say that it's not quite like kind of trying to get into a student or something, but it is like you do accrue it, right? And that your reputation does have an impact with how much success you have as an activist. Yeah.
Perhaps any questions from the audience?
How did the squatters community react, especially the ones you lived with, when it turned out that your results were so about the practice that were so much in conflict against their ideologies?
Well, I think there's been a mixed reaction. I mean, a lot of people find it really interesting and are very supportive. Other people are a little bit disappointed. They feel a bit kind of uncomfortable because it's very. I mean, this is a community that is explicitly anarchist, anti-hierarchical, and anti-authoritarian. So to have someone who has lived in this community actually say, authority, hierarchy, and authority is kind of built into the system. The thing is, though, everyone in this community who's actually self-reflective pretty much knows this is also the case as well. Like no one has ever said to me, well, this is not true. People will say, well, it's true in that community, but maybe not in my community, or etc. So, I mean, it's a mixed bag. I'm not gonna speak on behalf of other people's reaction, and I'm sure people will say things when I'm not around that are different that they would say to me directly. But it's a mix. But I understand. I mean, when you do any kind of anthropological work, it's always going. If you talk about what's actually going on, then you're always going to strike a chord because all of us are full of contradictions, and it's hard when someone else kind of writes a report about it, right?
Other questions? Absolutely no questions.
You mentioned something in the beginning about the rumors of the sexual behaviors of authority persons. What was that about? Could you elaborate a little bit about?
Sure. I mean, so this is going back to the dissertation, which actually does come into the sitcom, believe it or not. It's about understanding how, so in a community where authority is forbidden, where it's an anti-authoritarian community, how do you figure out who's an authority figure? And the way you figure it out is by hearing about who is gossiped about the most, and specifically about who's gossiped about sexually the most. So the idea is that the only people who are kind of interesting sexually are people who have lots of squatter capital and also have authority. Those are the people who other people will talk about. People who don't have a lot of authority or who aren't particularly well guarded are not very interesting. So it's about looking at how you recognize an authority when you can't recognize it directly. When you can't say, well, this person's the boss, or these are the people who are the boss. How do you figure out who's the boss, right? You hear it through gossip. Gossip is a very good way to figure out social structure in general.
So that's why you made a sitcom.
Well, in the sitcom, how it works out in the sitcom is there's because the sitcom has there are 4 episodes, and in one of them they go to the Krakspreker, which for people who don't speak Dutch, the squatters' information hour, and they all go there in order to get advice on how to defend their house. And the Kraakbond shows up, which means like the squatter boss shows up, and this term is an ironic term, you know, because it always shows ambivalence. It shows like a boss exists, but there are no bosses, and so there's ambivalence. And the Kraakbond shows up, and then all of the characters start having like these sexual fantasies about the Kraakbonds, you know. So this is kind of how this show is in a sitcom. I mean, obviously it's a sitcom, right? So it's not about like subtlety or whatever, but it's about these kind of power dynamics as well. The eroticism of authority, for example.
So perhaps one last question: how did the like your fellow anthropologist respond to the whole translation into this popular culture of flirt?
Well, I mean, that's actually interesting. That's actually interesting because I did my PhD in the U.S., so I'm technically in that world, in the U.S. academic world, and people are really excited that I have this kind of opportunity, because most academic work or anthropological work in general kind of just stays in an academic circle, and not that many people actually read it in the end. So this is kind of a nice way to translate a text into a fun, popular form. And it's fun to write a script. So I'm very happy about it.
Okay, thank you very much. So tomorrow, 8 o'clock at Gasco, if you are able to leave the Impact Festival. So we have a short break, I think 5 or 10 minutes. There's the bar, and Eindbaas will play some nice tunes for you. So, if you've all found your seats again, we can start with the second part of this program. And we'll show a film, Threesome, by an international, I think infamous artist collective called The Authentic Boys. Afterwards they will present more of their works, but first, Threesome. explain a bit about this. Welcome the Authentic Boys.
Yes, that's right. Hello, we are the Authentic Boys. Johannes Dolin, Gregory Stauffer, Boris van Hoof, and Eike Stewart. Johannes is the director of Threesome. I don't know if he wants to say something about it, but I can.
Well, actually, it was we were doing a theater play, and this was a scene in the play, and we decided to make a little own porn out of it. Yeah, and in the piece, we actually tried to bring rules or behavior we observed in the virtual world into a three-dimensional space. And I think here Threesome is really, there's my son. Yeah, I think that the theme of let's get physical, I think that's one of the main desires of these three, to get into human experience, or just being together. I'm sure it is also has something quite sexual, but it was not the main aim or the main thing we played with. And we wanted to find our own fetish or our own way of getting physical. That's something.
Yeah, that was very nice. Yeah, we were asked to give an impression of what we actually do as a group, which is quite diverse. We have different artistic backgrounds, theater backgrounds, and visual art and film backgrounds, and I think not all of our works are like this. We also work in the more performance field, and also make video works which start with a performance working method. So we have some clips to share. So we'll try to make this work. This is quite an old one. Well, it continues like that for ages. So I don't know if someone has to say something about it.
Greg, you want to say something about this?
Yeah, we made this in 2008 in Berlin, and I guess it shows maybe an aspect which interests us a lot is the public space. We make a lot of intervention in the public space also with films or performance or works like this, and I think what leads a bit also our work in general is to find a modern myth or modern mythology, to work on modern rituals also, and to always seek for comicity. Shall we pass?
The meaning of the rhythm, the metronome?
Oh, well, I think it's a very archaic movement. It's a very archaic and vibration, and yeah, I think for us the simplicity and I think the simplicity of the movement was the most fascinating for us, I guess. Yeah.
So another work which is more recent, where we're still finishing it, is Bad Luck City. It's a short film we shot on Super 8, and it's a completely different type of work. And we will show a kind of a trailer.
Good life, good mood, good trail, good way. Poor grass, poor rain, poor soil, poor lane. Good work, good job, good hood, good mob. Poor birds, poor sky, poor feet, poor eyes. Good side, good light, good time, good mind. Poor dog, poor man, poor chief, poor friend. Good days, good dawn, good do, good deed. Poor this, poor that, poor you, poor me.
Yes.
This will come maybe in the next film festival, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we just continue. We have one more project to present, and we're still working on it. Actually, tomorrow we're having a finissage in Rotterdam in Tent Gallery. So anyone who likes, feel free to come at 3. It's called Rehearsing Revolution, and it's an educational project. We were asked to design a project, like kind of a workshop project with high school kids in the age between 14 and 16, and we've been working on the revolution with them for 2 months, and every day we had new groups, and in total we had 500 to 700 kids, and we had a space which we kind of designed as a revolutionary training ground, where we worked with them, and we got some images of that, just of the space and how we worked in the space. Yeah, this is really a performance work, and we did some more performance works, but it was the first work we did with kids, and the first educational project we did. So we worked with visual elements that kind of refer to revolutions as we know them from television, social revolutions, but we try to work them more on like a personal revolution and try to make them rebel against their own habits and their own borders, since we also really see them as generation revolution. And yeah, one part of the performance is that they have to make masks. They all get a small plastic bag with some materials inside, and they have to make in 2 minutes time or some minutes time their own personal vermomming. I don't know how to disguise. And then we're making portraits of all of them, and now we're working on a selection of these revolutionary portraits. And yeah, we have some examples of that too. So that's it, I think.
Thanks a lot. Nice presentation. Any, perhaps someone has a question for you?
On the first two pieces, it seemed like coordinated action, but detachment was something that was present in both. Was like the idea of detachment and interaction and a theme that you were trying to play with, or is that just?
I don't think it was. Which first two pieces? You mean the threesome? The
Yeah, the threesome and the two guys matching up because they were doing the same thing, but they weren't near each other. It wasn't something they were using together. They just happened to be doing it in the same space.
Mm-hmm. You mean with the movement? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this was a thing we thought about. No. If I can say no to your question. Yes?
As far as your revolution training is concerned, you were commissioned an educational project. So how did your commissioners react to you teaching a bunch of scholier how to potentially turn over a police car?
Well, I think the interesting thing with the kids we worked with is that they are in a very revolutionary time also in their own biography. They're in puberty. So it's I think, and then they see all the revolution on television right now. And I think this was also a strange contradiction. I don't think they really understand. Often they didn't really understand.
Not the kids, the people that commissioned you. Did
sorry.
the idea that you teach all these kids how to potentially...
You mean the gallery?
Yeah.
Well, I think
the teachers of these kids from school, they're, I don't know, they're wardens, you know?
Well, there was always a teacher, and they were actually positive.
Yeah, we're not trying to make them politically active at all, or to make them be revolutionary at all. It's really just about state of mind and revolutionary in the sense of thinking different and being able to make change if you want, even also to yourself and to your own habits. So for us, we're just working with this political aesthetic maybe, but it absolutely has no political...
Yeah, but yours is just a rehearsal, right? So if
yes.
I'm like 16 and I see all that stuff on television, and then I go to a course where they teach me how to wave a flag, and well, I see the tires, yeah, so it gives me directly an idea what to do this in a political context. It's like you cannot tell me that you're detached. I mean, you're saying, we're so aesthetic.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with waving with a flag, I think.
No, no.
So,
there's nothing wrong with like the revolution. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out how they reacted to you, that you are potentially teaching these people how to be.
Yeah, but we're also, now you just saw the pictures, but we're actually also working on like silly walks with them. We're trying to do a revolutionary silly march where they have to move their body in just a strange and silly revolutionary way, as we say. But we still work with these flags and these car tires, so I think also like moving images would give maybe a different impression.
Perhaps one question, because I'm really curious, the revolution that you have is perhaps in, if I can sort of summarize it in all these really everyday objects, these really super dull moments, and then you see something in it. But how do you start to work with the four of you? Because, I mean, the brainstorms should be really fun to all these projects.
Yeah, I think we always, mostly have a lot of fun. We do quite regular authentic boys meetings. They're always at different places, sometimes in the mountains in Switzerland, sometimes in a cabin in Holland, sometimes in Norway, in Berlin, and then we play around. And
seriously, do you play around? That's the process.
Well, we play around. We discuss. Maybe one has an idea, the others give a feedback, and like this, something crystallizes out, if you can say that. This. You want to say some more about our creating process?
We just also one thing. It's like it's now 5 years, and it's a process that always changes. And I think now we're also getting asked to work for specific things like these workshops. So we have also a clear point on which we discuss. And before we were much more trying to find a common language. I think this all changed all the time, but yeah, this playfulness remains important.
Thanks a lot, and yeah, thanks for coming. Okay, up next is the second part of the triptych by Emil Trier and Torny. It's called Big Day. So if you want to have some questions for them, you can do it now, but perhaps we should just continue, and after the last one, some opportunity. Okay, so now the next guest is Nick Pullis, and he had the honor to make the video clip for Scream, a part of it, like 1/4 of it, isn't it?
The first 10 seconds.
The first 10 seconds. So he will tell you everything about those magical 10 seconds, I think, and show the clip afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm going to show you 3 movies, and the first one is my graduation project. I created several kind of lycra fabrics for the body, but I thought, how can I present it in a nice way, because it's really about the body and the movement and the stretchness of the fabrics. And I thought, I'm not going to do it in 1 picture or 3 pictures. I really want to make a movie out of it, because I think that's a really nice way to communicate the idea. So I made it, and it went pretty good. And I sent it to a company in London, and they told me, okay, we're working on a video clip for Scream. Would you like to come over and do the same trick? And yeah, it worked out really nice. It's only 10 seconds, but it was a really nice experience to work for 3 days with a director from London called David Wilson. And the third movie is Making Of, and it's really fun to see him again, because he's a really funny guy. Yeah, it was great to work with him for 3 days. But now you will see my graduation project, and then the Scream video clip, and then the Making Of. So that's it. Very quick, because the first 10 seconds they go quite fast. But yeah, David Wilson, the director, he asked like 3 art directors to create his idea of Adam and Eve coming to life, and I had the opportunity to make Adam come alive. So what you see is I made new fabrics for Adam, and I directed it, and I had my own camera, and I just could do my whole part, the first 10 seconds. But yeah, you just have to see it. But be very quick, because it goes too fast actually.
You know, I was there at the set. Sorry, I tell it after.
And this is the making of the screen, listening to the records on my wall.
So the concept of the video is based around the story of Adam and Eve. I was really interested in the psychology of being first man and first woman on Earth, but also the physical side, the fact that Adam's created out of clay and then Eve is created out of Adam.
So the screen was really open to such a conceptual interpretation of the track, so I grabbed the opportunity with both hands.
The whole project had a very collaborative feel, with Scream actually creating the radio edit of the track to fit with my storyboards.
Once we had our completed track, I then created a detailed animatic using my own drawings and some computer-generated 3D animations, which we could then use to plot out our different parts of the promo and then delegate to a team of various different artists and art directors.
During the first scenes of the video clip, where we will create Adam and he will be coming out of the earth. We will use these socks with printed colors on them, so you will have sort of liquid kind of flowing forms around Adam's head, and he will be pushed through the fabric, so you will see that he really is coming to life.
For the shot with Adam's chest, where he produces Eve with this ball of light that comes out of his chest, we used to do some prosthetic work. We did, on the actual actor, some applied prosthetics where we used a platinum-based silicone to fuse the plasticine ring on his chest to his skin, and this was shot from above. But for the shot from the side, where we needed to see the depth into the chest, it was necessary to make a fake standing torso.
At the moment that Adam and Eve first kiss, the forest grows around them in circles, surrounding them, and we filmed this in stages. So we had the couple in the middle of the circle who had to hold a pose while we ripped into the fabric with a knife and put in a little plant, and then jumped out again, jumped in, moved the little plant along, put in a medium-sized plant, and did this progressively all the way around until the scene was from the forest.
One of the most labour-intensive parts of the project was our end part of our promo, and this included some animations that come to life in our growing tree trunks in the Garden of Eden. These were created through an old animation technique called strata cut. I worked in collaboration with illustrator and animator Joseph Knapp in order to get our heads around this rarely used technique.
Strata cut animation is a technique that was highly refined by a guy called David Daniels in the 90s, and he was a huge inspiration for this music video. So a little example of strata cut here. Here I've got some little party cone shaped piece of plastic stacked inside one another, and then once rolled out into a long line like this and sliced through very thinly, you can kind of see you get this circular pattern on the inside, which is where you're seeing the end of one colour and the start of another. And the rings kind of intertwine, so as you slice through they kind of move inside one another like this. The more colours you use, obviously the more rings you end up with. Once you've got your length of plasticine with various things running through the centre, you take one slice at a time. We were taking 2mm slices. So once you've taken your slice, you then photograph what you're seeing on the inside, and then slice again, photograph, slice again, photograph, all the way through. So what you're getting is what's running through the centre, kind of changing on the outside layer and animating.
So as you can see, this promo was a real collaborative effort, and this video only really scratches the surface at the amount of people involved in making this vision come to life. So I hope this film has gone some way to explaining all the processes involved in this project, and I hope you enjoy the end result.
Funny, he doesn't blink his eyes at all. The fun thing about it was such an English production, so you know, it was really about strata cut and stop motion, and they were all English. And I was this Dutch guy who came in, and I finished my work in like an hour because I only had the socks, like boop, I was ready. And this guy Joseph, he was already working for 3 months on this strata cut, and I even had to help him on the set. And he had to work until 12 o'clock in the morning, and then he still wasn't ready, so it was quite a heavy experience for him, and for me it was very strange to, you know, come in as a Dutch guy, and I was just finished in 1 hour. The end.
This just preparations. That's what you need.
Yeah, definitely.
We have room for one question, and then we have to
go on.
Go on, yeah. So, that's easy.
Was yours also good? No questions at all?
Okay, then no questions, then we keep...
One question. The first film that you showed was your...
My graduation project. That's my own
it's
direction.
Not really a question, it's a compliment because I like it much more than the second film.
That's good to hear.
I think it's really nice, nice instrument to experiment with.
Yeah.
In the future, because I have really nice elements in movements.
Yeah.
Quite very fascinating.
Thanks. Yeah, for me it was really a nice opportunity. You know, it was right after my graduation I got the assignment. But now I also think that you know, it was like 10 seconds and I could do much more with it.
Yeah, I think you should develop this one.
Yeah. With a better camera, because this was a Casio Exiflim F1, very cheap, but it works. Yeah.
Okay, so all the alliances you can make afterwards in the foyer, and you can have all the questions for him as well. So thank you very much. Okay, and then as a last guest we have the magical Daniel Coburn, who's going to tell an introduction to the movie that he's going to screen tomorrow, Sunday, which you can all see, but he has some short words about it.
Thanks. Yeah, so I have, my name's Daniel. I have a shorts program showing tomorrow at 5 p.m. and then on Sunday is my feature film, You Are Here. And we don't have time to show a clip of it, so I'm just going to piggyback on a previous clip that we saw, which I'm still thinking about anyway, that threesome movie. My movie is kind of the exact opposite of that, in that like nobody's having any kind of sex and nobody is enjoying themselves at all. But that's not to say I don't think it could be an enjoyable movie, but there's also a bit of similarity in that it's about, like I think threesome is, it's about people doing strange things that do not really exist in our normal human reality, but underneath them is still a like a desire for human contact. And actually watching Threesome and thinking like, how opposite is this to my movie? And then I thought, does anybody in my movie ever touch another person? And I don't think so. I think there's actually no human contact in this movie, except for one very specific point, but the person who's getting touched is dead, and there are actually like 35 people at the same time. But when you see the movie, that will make a little more sense to you. It will be showing on Sunday at 5, and then I'm leaving this place, and then I'm coming back to do a mini residency at the end of November, and I'll do a workshop, and on December 1st I'm going to do a lecture performance called All the Mistakes I've Made, which is pretty much what the title says, and it's an anti-artist talk. So I hope to see you at something or other in the near future. Thanks.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming, and we have to rush to the next program, which should have started at 9. So please, if you can take your things upstairs and get out.